Welcome to a short video on printing W-2s in Sage 100 Contractor. First thing we want to do is take a look at the W-2 form itself. You can find that under the IRS site or several sites, H&R Block, etc., etc. Here's a copy of the W-2 for 2022. All these boxes are set up in the calculations within Sage to print the totals for the year for the various and sundry things that you see. If you need an explanation on any one of these, it's easy enough to find that online. Sometimes it's a little confusing on box 12 and or 13 or 14 as to what codes you will use and whatnot. These should have been set up for you. If you have any questions about those and whether they're set up properly in your calculations, then you can obviously consult the web or consult your accountant, and you can then get in to, and I'm going to minimize this here, then we can get into the payroll calculations. It's menu 531, and we'll bring that screen over here. And again, based on the tax type, this is how things are going to print. These are union dues. Those are not going to be on your W-2. However, if we go up here to Social Security and Medicare and federal income tax, all of those things will. And then again, based on the tax type, it will know into which box those are supposed to go. If it's deferred compensation or something like that, again, that's probably going to go down. And I think we have something in here for 401k. Bear with me just a moment here. And here's an employee 401k. So again, the tax type says where it's going to go. And in this case, it's going to go into box 12 with code D. What do those mean? Again, those should have been set up for you prior. However, you can go online and you can figure out what these codes are supposed to mean and which boxes they are pertinent to. Okay, so let's assume that everything's set up properly. If that's the case, then we're going to go back to Sage, and we are going to move ourselves into federal and state tax filing. So first of all, we're going to go to our federal forms. And that opens up. And what we're going to be looking at is the W-2, W-3. This is this item here, unless, of course, you are in the Virgin Islands or Guam, which most of you weren't. So we're going to print that, and we're going to print it for 2022. Okay. The 2022 form is not available yet with Atrix. It will soon be. So we're going to assume that this is the case, but obviously things are going to change just a tad with Atrix before you run your W-2s. So what we do then is we run the report, and it goes through and does some calculating and whatnot. And then it's going to check itself to make sure that the most recent forms are available from Atrix. So you can do an auto update and it'll just come in over the internet, or in this case, we're going to forget about that for the time being since I just updated this, and we're going to just continue expired. You will not. You will download, use an automatic update. We'll then let that run through all of its stuff, and this is giving me an error that I expected since The form is that I'm printing this on in Atrix is for 2021, and obviously we want it for 2022. So let's not worry about that right now. We're just going through the mechanics of doing this. So we'll continue on, and then it just goes through and asks a couple of questions. Do you want to do a test drive? Fine. You want to do a test drive with all your employees or 25 of your employees? Again, it's up to you. You can try this out. It's not going to hurt anything. Right now, we're just going to say, hey, we're ready to go. And I'm going to say, no, thanks. And we'll go to the next screen. This is getting your federal ID number off of screen 7.2 in Sage. Okay, and then you read these instructions. I know that they're a little bit more complex than it seems they need to be, but in this case, most of you will be running just for a single payroll company and not for multiple. So we'll just say next. This is more information that's coming from screen 7.2. If you fill this out, it automatically fills in for you. You will want to put in a contact name, first name, last name, title, email, and a phone so that if the feds need to, they can get a hold of somebody at your office. That will usually be the person who's running these W-2s. We're not going to do that right now. In the interest of time, oh, excuse me, it doesn't like this address, so 1234 Main Street, and next. Okay, I'm filing for my company. Most of you will be if you're somebody preparing for somebody else and you use option 2. Okay, in here we're going to need to put the ID numbers for your state withholding, disability, etc., etc. Simply select one of these guys, edit it. When you do so, come on, computer, it's going to ask you what the number is, and it actually gives you the format. I'm in California, so I'm going to just put in 999 9999. That should work. And in most cases, that tax ID for the state is going to be replicated for all of the California stuff. In this case, I'm filing also for some people in Nevada. If I chose that, I'd edit that. Obviously, it's a little bit different format. So we'll just do 9 and set to go. If you have local tax accounts, some of you in the Midwest do have that, where you're paying local taxes and you have to report those. If that's the case, you can simply add that, put the state name, the tax that is being done. If you have local taxes, this should pre-fill for you in Sage. Now it's going to make me do all of this. And that. And we're set to go. Okay, then it asks you about a whole bunch of questions. People exempt. We have usually the employer, not the employer, there are some people in certain situations that are exempt from Medicare and Social Security. If that's the case, you would say yes. Obviously, it's no. Clergy, control numbers, I don't think I'd worry about that. If I were you, you could use them to refer to like a batch of W-2s. Having employees that who elected to only receive W-2 forms electronically. So press yes. If you're giving them copies anyhow, then you can file electronically and give them copies, or they'll get copies from Atrix. Again, it's up to you. If you file electronically, they'll send the employee copies. So on the W3, that's the summary page of the W2 process. And so the control number needs to go in a box if you're using control numbers. We're not. Most of you are going to be 941 reporters. Okay? If it's anything other than that, you obviously check the appropriate box. Do you have third-party sick pay? If so, check that. And obviously, if you terminated, you would check that. But other than that, most of you will just check that particular box. Oops. And this is going to say, most of you are going to say none of this is, none apply. These are all nonprofits, except for the federal government. Obviously, they work at a profit. So we'll choose none apply, and we'll say next. Okay. Do we want to truncate the Social Security numbers on the printed employee copies? Up to you. I'm going to choose not to truncate, and we're just going to print the whole thing. And then it goes ahead and prepares the forms, or not the forms, prepares these particular pages in here. So Sage is going to put the proper label in the proper boxes based on the way you set up the calculations. So box A through box F, box 1 through box, oh God, what are we looking at, box 17, 18, and 19 have been applied in this particular case. The rest of these are calculations that do not need to be reported on the W-2. So these beige colored columns I wouldn't worry about, okay? If you need to report something and you're in a state other than California, then obviously you would choose the box to which this belongs and give it the proper type. Most of you, that will not be the case. Then you hit your next button. And it goes through and it starts, it now gives us names and addresses and all this other stuff. Most of this is filled out for you by the program. If need be, you may have to fill out some of this yourself. Okay, so you can just wander through these things and fill them out as needed. This is what they're calling this additional employee information. Go to the next, and this is verifying the federal information. A lot of this is duplicated by Atrix. Why, I don't know, but it is. Okay, so if something is amiss, you would be able to correct it on here, and that's what would be reported on the W-2. And then the state information gets verified. And we're just going to continue without correcting here. And then the unassigned columns get verified if need be. Obviously, a lot of these things we just don't report on. Okay, we got that same error message. And this is referring to the local taxes. Again, in the interest of time, we're not going to worry about that in this instance. You may have to. Now we get to this screen from Atrix. And this says, if you want, you can file your W-2s electronically. So you'll be done with that part. And instead of printing them and sending them to the feds, and they'll stuff them in an envelope, put postage on it, and send them to your employees. Costs you $2.50 a piece. I think that's really a bargain, but it's up to you whether or not you want to do that. maybe you're a small outfit and you just soon print them out yourself. Okay, so here we have what it's going to cost you to do all this stuff. And in this case, we have 45 employees in the sample company at $250 a piece, and then the employee only copies, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. You can read that and determine whether or not you want to do it. Okay. Then this asks you if you want to buy a PDF for your W-2s. That's for 35 bucks. I think that's a little excessive. If you want it, it's there, and they will send it to you probably via email with a link. Okay, this is what it's going to print. Okay, it just says you won't be able to view your employee copies in the forms printer, et cetera, et cetera. And we're going to go next. Now at this point, we're going to be able to view the reports. Okay? This is for your copy. This is your employer W-2. So you can actually buy perforated paper that this gets printed on. You can burst these and then put them into the employee's files if you wish. This is, again, the employer copy. You want to print it, print it. All we got to do is just hit the print final, and it'll go out to the printer. It'll ask you to load that perforated paper. Once that's done, okay, so again, it says put the 4-part perforated paper in. You can buy that, or you can order that from Sage Forms. And we will just cancel that. Okay. Then we come up with the W-2s that are the employee's copy. Right? And what's going to be also a copy of this would be submitted to the feds if you were filing manually. Okay, so you get to take a look at that and review that and make sure everything is as it should be. You could print it and review it from there as well. Let's assume everything's okay. We hit the next step. I just said no to that because I want to get on to the W-3. This is a summation of everything that you printed on the individual forms. Again, you can print that, keep that if you like. Again, I'm going to say no. And then it goes through and it's going to connect to the Atrix e-file center. So what we're going to do is, before you start this process, you're going to need to set up with Atrix. Go online to Atrix and get an account. Okay, so let's just assume we forgot your login. Okay, and we can recover that if we wish. Or we could enroll. Okay, if we enroll, then again, we create a username, password, the accounting package, that would be Sage 100 Contractor. Okay, contact information, email, all this stuff that's going to be needed, your employer ID number, company name, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. Fill all this out, pay the money, and you will be enrolled. Once you're enrolled, then you can, at this point, you've already been able to print out your stuff. But if you wanted to e-file and have them send out the W-2s, you're off and running. You would just simply follow instructions, and all that would happen. You would get plenty of verification from from Atrix as to what's happened, and you should be done with the process. If you do this the second time, I think it'll probably take you 10 minutes because a lot of this stuff will already have been done. First time, it's a little scary, but relatively easy to do. So we're going to discard these and just get out of here. Okay. This would allow me now to get back in, put my username and password, and then I would just follow the prompts in order to get things filed. So I think we're done with this. If you have any questions or need help on this, certainly contact Bangert, and Bangert will send somebody like me to help you out with it. If you've watched this and have questions, we'll be happy to answer those questions.